Are you trying to attract butterflies into your garden? Maybe this is the first time you've ever had a go at this, or maybe you've tried your hand before and you haven't been very successful. Either way, in this video I'm going to give you everything that you need to know to get started, because we both know that the urban landscape is a little bit of a desert and our native butterflies really do need an oasis. Attracting butterflies is a lot more than just giving them a bunch of flowers, because they actually have a few different life cycles that we need to take into consideration. In this video I'm going to give you everything you need to know to get started, from creating a nice habitat for them, climate, sunlight, host plants for the caterpillars, pollination services. We'll go over a few of the best Aussie native plants the butterflies will absolutely love. Let's get straight into it. So why should we attract butterflies anyway? Let's face it, they're just delightful. Who wouldn't want to be surrounded by butterflies in their garden? Flowers are great, sure, but having butterflies flying through them is just an absolute joy. They provide crucial pollination services, and we need to keep them around for our native wildlife, so having a bit of a refuge in the city is actually going to help our natural habitats as well. And if it's not you and I who are creating this habitat for the butterflies, who are we going to rely on? Because we both know that our natural landscapes are actually degrading, so the more we can do, the better it will be. When we talk about life cycles, there are really 4 life cycles in a butterfly's life that we need to be talking about. So first of all, butterflies start as an egg and they start out life on a host plant. So we'll talk about some host plants later on. And this is particularly stuff like native grasses and other plants like that. So every specific butterfly is going to have their own preferences for where they lay their butterflies. So that egg hatches into a larvae, which is a caterpillar. That caterpillar will then feed on that host plant. So that's the first 2 life cycles. Then we've got a pupa. So after the caterpillars really gorged themselves on those host plants, they're going to use their silk, or different butterflies will use different methods. Sometimes they'll sort of cut up different parts of leaves and attach them, but they're going to have what we call a chrysalis. So that's a pupa or a cocoon. We've all read The Hungry Caterpillar as kids, I'm sure. So obviously after that cocoon opens up, they're going to emerge as a butterfly. Don't help them in that phase, because they really need to be doing this for themselves. If you try and help them out of that cocoon, 1, they're probably not going to be ready to come out, and 2, they're not going to develop the muscles that they need. So that process of emerging out of the cocoon is really important that they go through that. As they emerge as an adult, they're going to have wet wings and they're going to need to let that dry out, and then they're just going to flutter away and start the next life phase. I don't know how they know what to do after that, but they just do. They just already know what to do. So then they're going to go and pick up some pollen from the flowers if they can find some. Then they're going to lay eggs, and the whole cycle is going to start over again. So it attaches to them, that's just incidental. Really what they're after is that nectar. They want to drink that sugar water, and then they're going to take that pollen from one flower and then bring it to another. So what are some of the best flowers that they really like? Stereotypically, people say that they really love purple, and it's true, they do love purple and blue flowers, but you'll also find them on all sorts of different colours. Like you'll find them on white flowers, yellow flowers, red flowers, pink flowers. They're not going to be that. However, there are, in saying that you're going to find some particular butterflies have specialized pollination, so they really have evolved with these codependent relationships with different flowers and butterflies. And you're also going to want to avoid harsh chemicals, in particular broad spectrum pesticides, because they're not going to be able to differentiate between beneficial butterflies and pest butterflies. Those are really definitions that we've given as humans, and they're not very helpful in the garden. A lot of what we're going to be talking about in this video will actually be conducive to an integrated pest management approach. So it's stuff like making sure that your plants are healthy, putting a lot of small flowers in that are going to be great for introducing stuff like micro wasps that are going to lay eggs in the pest's head. So it's not just butterflies that you're going to be attracting, it's all sorts of native insects that are going to be very beneficial to your garden and help to keep those pests away, because a biodiverse garden is a healthy garden, and pests are actually very important in terms of the food chain. Like they sort of live on the bottom of the food chain, and without those pests you're not going to get the predatory insects that live on the higher levels. And then obviously you're going to have birds that are going to eat different phases, so you actually need a few pests in your garden for it to be healthy. So once you have all this in place, you're going to want to start monitoring and making sure that things are actually progressing in the way that you want to. And just all around see which plants are doing the best and which species of butterfly are really going strong in your garden. So now, without further ado, let's have a chat about some of the most prolific flowering and best pollinator attracting flowers, especially for butterflies. So fan flowers, in particular pink fusion and purple fusion scavola. So these are fan flowers that are really, really, really strong and hardy. And in fact, probably pink fusion scavola is one of the best Aussie natives that have ever been bred in terms of prolific flowering. So this one's really just going to keep going and going and going and going. It's tough, it can deal with wet feet, drought, sand, clay. You can just really basically put it anywhere and it's just going to go off all year round. It's a great Aussie native plant to use. Blue gem Westringia. So this one is actually one of the most prolific flowering Westringias that we've ever come across. It's really, really prolific in spring, and then it'll sort of flower throughout other times of the year as well. So it has really beautiful blue flowers, and we know that a lot of butterflies particularly like blue and purple flowers, so that's a great option. Mundi Westringia, so that one's got the white flowers, another really prolific flowering one. It grows low to the ground, great as a ground cover. You can prune it if you want to. Low maintenance, you don't have to prune it if you don't want to. Let it keep that natural shape. Looks beautiful. In terms of callistemons, I'd really like to talk about the Burst series. So this is a brand new range that Osbreed have just brought out recently. They're doing really well in testing, and they got a bunch of different colours from white to baby pink, fluoro pink, a bunch of different colours. Particularly I'd like to talk about Candy Burst, which has those dark pink bottle brush flowers, and also Sweet Burst, which has baby pink flowers. And you've never seen bottle brushes that are as beautiful as these, trust me. Grevilleas also go really hard for butterflies. So we've got stuff like Cherry Cluster Grevillea. So that's going to be like lots of flowers through autumn, winter, spring. And another cultivar is Crimson Villia Grevillea. So probably the best winter flowering plant in the whole world. And again, we've got flowers right through autumn, winter and spring on these grevilleas. Correas are another great butterfly attracting flower. So we've got coastal pink Correa alba. If you're on a coastal area that really gets a lot of that salt and wind and you're really trying to protect it for butterflies, coastal pink Correa is going to be really good for that, because you're going to be able to withstand those conditions and provide some shelter for those butterflies, and as well as some of those beautiful pink flowers that they're going to love to drink nectar out of. Firebells Correa. So this is another really good Correa. It's actually not a good one for a hedge because it's quite low growing, more of a ground cover really, but it's got some beautiful orangey red flowers. Absolutely stunning plant, great for small spaces, great for ground covers, and very much a pollinator attracting plant. As I mentioned, attracting butterflies isn't just about those pollination services, it's also about giving the larvae or the caterpillar something to actually feed on. So we want something that those adult life phases, something that mum can lay her eggs on. And we need to provide that food. So stuff like grasses, particularly native grasses, are great. So Kingsdale Poa is a really good one. We've got some blue foliage, great host plant for a wide range of different butterflies. Going to attract those native butterflies. Perfect for coastal areas again, so if you've got some of that salt around, it can sort of withstand that. Native Pennisetums are another good option. Pennisetums get a bad name because we do have some invasive ones, and some of our native ones as well can be quite virile with their seeds, can be quite weedy. So that's why I recommend something a bit more like the Nefray Pennisetum, which isn't going to have those seeds that are going to be quite virile. So a much safer one in terms of weed sterility. It's a very tough plant, good for erosion control, and it's also non-invasive, so that's not a problem. Butterfly gardens aren't rocket science, guys, so we really just need something for the mums to lay their eggs on. That's a host plant. Native grasses are really good for that. Each different native butterfly is going to have their own preferences in terms of the host plant. Then we're going to need something for the adult form to feed on, so that's those nectar services. We're going to need for them to have some sunlight, access to somewhere to sun themselves, to warm up their wings because they're cold-blooded, so they really do need a little bit of help warming up. We're going to need some protection from wind, give them some water, and just give them some Aussie plants. So remember, plant diversely, give them a lot of different stuff, plant the same colours together to attract them, plant abundantly, give them lots, so just a few plants here and there aren't really going to do it. We're really going to want to go for that wild look with lots of different native plant species. And also, don't forget about your exotics, because butterflies, a lot of the time, yes, the native plants are great, but they're not going to look at an exotic plant and go, oh, I'm not interested in that. That's not an Australian native. That's a term that we put on them. Yes, there are some particularly strong pollinator plant relationships. Not all pollinators are like that though. Some of them are actually very happy to stick to the exotic plants or the native plants. Most of all, just have fun with it, because butterflies are a pleasure in the garden and it's a really fun thing to do to build that habitat.